Oh, chunk.
Hey everyone, I'm Brett, and welcome to Nightwood Guns. Recently on the channel, I've been looking at competition pistols, concealed carry pistols, duty pistols, just real serious use handguns. But today, we have one that is just pure fun. We are looking at the Kimber Rampart. Now, I was particularly excited to do the review on the Rampart because it gave me an excuse to look at modern Kimber 1911s. I obviously reviewed the 2K11, the Carbon Compact, along with the CDS9, and those are all new offerings from Kimber, and they've been doing an excellent job with those, but none of them are the classic 1911 that they are known for. Now, when I was a kid, I shot a lot of Kimbers that were made in the early to mid 2000s. This is my personal Kimber Desert Warrior here, circa probably 2006 or 7. And back then, looking at covers of gun magazines, this was my dream pistol, so grateful to have one. So in today's video, we will see how Kimber 1911s manufactured in 2025 stack up. We will be going over the features, the positives, and of course, this is an honest channel, the negatives of the Kimber Rampart. And I'm sure you've noticed by now that this does have a compensator on there, so be sure to stay tuned because we're going to talk about just how efficient that comp is. Kimber did send this gun to the channel with the expectation that I will give it a fair review and give my honest feedback. The sponsor of today's video is you guys. I really appreciate all of your support with the channel. It's so exciting to see the channel take off and grow. Seriously, my heart, it goes out to you. Making sure you're subscribed, hitting that like, thumbs up button, and dropping a comment down below to help increase the reach of the video is all greatly appreciated. And my biggest thank you goes out to my patrons. I'm so grateful for your continued support of the channel. If you'd like to become a patron or you'd like to support me in other ways, you can check out the links in the description below. I have some merch. I have my amazing short novels on Amazon. Whatever you decide to do, your support keeps this channel going. Now, hopping right into things, this is a 650 round review because this guy is chambered in 45 ACP, and that's all I had. Now, everything that we know and love about 1911s is present on the Rampart, the most noteworthy of which being the 1911 style trigger, which is not hinged, it pushes directly to the rear, right into the frame of the gun. Very short take-up, an extremely crisp break, and of course, very short reset. And thanks to the 1911's single stack design, we are losing a lot of capacity, but we are gaining a lot in the ergonomics department. The grip angle, the weight, the balance, everything that people love about 1911s is expectedly present on the Rampart. Now, as far as the features that really impress me on this gun, number one is going to be the lock grips that come on it. These are G10s, and they are aggressive without being so sharp that they'll cut you up, but your hand absolutely sticks to these things, and it makes controlling recoil an absolute piece of cake. Lock grips are always my favorites, so I'm happy to see that they come with the Rampart. Oh, and speaking of the grips, if you're wondering what this white patch is right there, I think there's one on this side too. Yeah, that's just because I kept this thing stored for a while in a case with foam lining, and it just sucked the moisture out of those G10 grips, so hitting it with some oil brings the color right back. Speaking of the grips and the texture, there is some fun texturing on the front strap of this pistol. Looks kind of dimpled and scaly, gives it a unique look while also being comfortable in hand, but also effective at locking your hand in place while shooting. And this is something that I always appreciate about Kimbers, is they always infuse personality into their 1911s, helps set them apart from the crowd. We also have some fine checkering on the backstrap or mainspring housing back here. There's also a little lanyard hole there to match the overall aesthetic of the Rampart. It has an ambidextrous safety, and the thing that impressed me about this is many ambi safeties on the actual ambi side, they wiggle kind of like a loose tooth. And over a bunch of reps and 650 rounds, it has remained tight. And that is more than I could say for my Dan Wesson Specialist, that of course is a more expensive pistol. Right out of the box, this Dan Wesson's ambi-side safety was wiggling like a loose tooth. So props to Kimber for their fit and finish. There is a great set of fiber optic sights on here. It comes with blacked out rear and a red fiber optic in it from the factory, but you can replace it with whatever color you want. If you want colors on the rear or a different color on the front, or if you want to black everything out. And a nice attention to detail, the front and rear sight are serrated to help keep glare down if it is a blazing sunny day and the sun is at your back. It just helps give it a nice sharp sight picture. Now, people might end up being divided on this, I honestly don't know, but I actually like the mean green Cerakote on this thing. It has kind of an ammo can look to it. It just kind of looks like a World War II Army Jeep. There's something about it that's just really fun. Like I said, Kimber infuses their 1911s with personality. Now, if that didn't divide you, this might, the Godfather font of Rampart on the side of it. I think that might be hit or miss. Personally, I don't mind it. I'm glad Kimber just said F it and just went all in. They hard committed to the aesthetic, and I appreciate that. It's campy in the best way. Now, speaking of the way it looks, let's talk about the way that it is fit together. Fit and finish on this thing is surprisingly flawless. The green Cerakote is applied expertly. Every little thing, including the ambi safety that I mentioned earlier, is fit flawlessly. There is no slide to frame movement on this, and the barrel is so tight. It definitely harkens back to the days where Kimber had a pretty good reputation. It was a great 1911 for the money. But this old Desert Warrior is the same way, just an airtight slide fit and barrel fit, which is something that is really impressive to see on a non-custom 1911. But everything from the slide stop to the mag release, everything fits as it should, so they are doing a really good job, so it seems, at their Alabama factory. Now, the other cool thing about the Rampart is it looks like it comes in 9mm, 45, 38 Super, and 10mm, so a lot of options out there. For me, if I'm getting a 1911, I want that sucker to be in God's caliber, the American Pie 45 ACP. I don't like shooting twice, especially if it is a single stack, so 45 is my choice. If you want to run this thing without the compensator, Kimber is super awesome. They also include a standard bushing and recoil spring plug, so you can just convert this thing to a standard government 5-inch 1911 with the Rampart skin. Now let's talk about the compensator. This is a bushing compensator. So what that means is this little end piece right here is the bushing of a 1911, if you're unfamiliar. And replacing this bushing is this compensator. Now, bushing comps have been around for a long time, and they typically don't do much, if anything at all. However, for a couple of reasons, the comp on this actually works. Now, I'm not going to say it's amazing. It's not like a Radian Ramjet Afterburner or something crazy like that. No Staccato XC around here. But they went with a 10-port design on this thing. 6 ports on the top, 2 ports on each side. Now, while it doesn't vent gas perfectly and it's not airtight, like it basically operates similar to the SIG X Macro with the integral comp milled into the slide, and it just has the shorter barrel. The way that they have sprung this thing from the factory and the addition of the G10 lock grips that lock into your hands. And we can't forget about the lightning cuts in the slide that help reduce the weight of that reciprocating mass. All of those things in conjunction genuinely feel like it knocks down muzzle rise by like 20%. So I fired the original Desert Warrior no comp versus the Rampart with the comp so you can see the difference in slow motion. But in hand, the Rampart definitely felt like it punched less. And that makes this one of the most fun 1911s I've ever shot. It is a pleasure to shoot this thing. And this was surprising to me because I didn't think 45 ACP was going to have enough juice coming out of this bushing compensator to vent enough gas to make it noticeable. But it just barely hits that cusp of being noticeable and makes it a lot of fun. And of course, it doesn't hurt that the compensator makes this look like, you know, one of Tom Jane's 1911s in the Punisher movie. Quick, somebody get the Yankee Marshall's Punisher grips to slap on this thing. But it does kind of make it look like a long slide 1911, and I always enjoy the aesthetics of a 6-inch long slide 1911, and you get that with the Rampart along with a moderately effective comp. And of course, talking about Kimber in 2025, we have to check in on the reliability of the pistol, of which it was 100%, but the first couple hundred rounds definitely were chugging along. Like, you could definitely feel this thing chunk into place as it was chambering every single round, but it never choked. Oh, chunk. But as expected with the production 1911, after a few hundred rounds, this thing really started to smooth out and was running perfectly fine. And speaking of reliability, it was common knowledge for a long time that if you bought a Kimber, even back in the days when they had a great reputation, you had to just toss the OEM magazine in the trash can and slap a Wilson Combat or a Chip McCormick in there. But it appears Kimber has overcome their OEM magazine curse because I ran a lot of rounds through the magazine that came with the gun. It ran 100%. Okay.
All right. Factory Kimber magazine. Let's go take a look.
But other than that, I ran Wilson Combat mags, Trip Research Cobra mags, Chip McCormick mags, and my favorite D&L Sports magazines, and they all ran perfectly fine in this. Now, while it's clear that I had a blast shooting this gun, nothing is perfect, so let's hop into the negatives. So the first glaring issue is going to be the slide serrations. They 100% went for form over function with these. I would describe them as just barely functional. It's better than no serrations being there, but they're pretty much there just to look cool. Next up, at this price point, I would have liked to have seen this gun come with a magwell. I think especially with the long slide aesthetic, it really could have used a magwell to help balance out the proportions. And on top of that, reloading a typical GI 1911 requires precision. Next up, this thing does not have any kind of accessory rail. Now, I get what they were going for. It was all aesthetic. They wanted to give this that classic look, especially calling it the Rampart. But it kind of also relegates this thing to a fun range gun or novelty gun. You know, certainly you could absolutely run, you know, an offhand flashlight, but you know, less than ideal if you were looking for a home defense piece. Next up, I'm just gonna say, if you buy any production 1911, it is going to require a break-in period, and I don't think Kimber's exempt from that. Like I said, I didn't have any malfunctions, but it was ka-chunking feeding those rounds in for a minute. So just expect a break-in period with these things, and if for whatever reason you have an issue, Kimber has a lifetime warranty, just so you have some peace of mind. And of course, the final negative is that Kimbers are filled to the brim with MIM or metal injection molded parts. Now, when you look at competitors in this price point that are also US made, such as Springfield Armory, they're doing the same thing. Now, Kimber's MIM seems to be squared away. Obviously, I didn't experience any breakages or anything like that, but I bring it up because we now have a cheap Turkish competitor on the market that is going all forged. Now, granted, they don't have the warranty that Kimber has, and also arguments could be made about how they're sourcing their steel or the quality of steel they are using to forge, whether or not they're heat treating properly, which is all far more important than forged versus MIM. So this is an American-made quality 1911 with MIM parts. If you want an American-made quality 1911 with all forged parts, you have to jump up to Dan Wesson, which is also a noticeable jump up in price. And then you could just kind of make the argument where, you know, why don't you spend a little more and get a Kimber? Why don't you spend a little more and get a Dan Wesson? Why don't you spend a little more and get a Les Bear? Why don't you spend a little more and get a Nighthawk? And, you know, pretty soon you're dropping 6 G's on a 1911. I am so happy to see Kimber back in action nowadays. When I was a kid and a teenager growing up looking at gun magazines, seeing Kimbers with their, you know, great marketing and photographs on the front page, watching the Outdoor Channel and seeing the ads for Kimber, watching SWAT with Colin Farrell and they're all running the TLEs. Kimber makes guns that are full of life, and I'm so glad to see now that they're in their new Alabama location. They're popping out nice 1911s that put a smile on my face. Just look at this thing. How could you not love this? Shooting this review just reminded me that it's not all serious all the time when it comes to handguns. You don't always have to be training when you go to the range. It can be fun, it can be recreational, and this Rampart helped make that possible. Kudos to Kimber for shedding the CEO disease that they had and tossing it over to Sig. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video on the Kimber Rampart, everyone. It was great seeing you again, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm Brett, and this was Nightwood Guns. Nightwood out.